Barack Obama, the President of the United States, has his hands in just about everything, including local politics. He tried to put his hand into Pennsylvania politics unsuccessfully.
Yes. And our next guest is living, and I might add, courageous proof of the president's lack of success. Congressman and former Admiral Joe Sestak joins us now. Admiral, welcome back to Brian and the Judge.
Great to be back with you all. Thank you.
Did your heart go out to Governor Patterson when you heard, even though you might not even know him, when you heard that the President of the United States was asking him to step aside and not run? Because that was very similar to what the message you got in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I don't know if it was my heart, but my concern grew a bit more. And it grew a bit more because I strongly believe that the Democrats did not achieve the White House with President Obama through political calculation. They did it through audacity. And if we begin to become a party that, rather than encouraging people to be involved in the process, as he had done during his run for the presidency, and become a party that decides like a party boss to select winners or losers, I think you're not only going to raise some growing resentment, but it won't bode well for the party, because that's the type of approach in Washington, D.C. that America doesn't like.
You know, I am not a Democrat, Admiral, but from my observation of the Democrats, you guys thrive on primaries. Maybe in Chicago they thrive on the political bosses designating who the party standard bearer would be. But that's not the way it works in the Democratic Party in the rest of the country. Agreed?
Not in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. Look at the primary of Clinton and Obama when they went through.
In Pennsylvania.
Not only let us be involved in the process, but it made them better candidates, and I'm convinced made him a better president of the United States of having gone through it.
Yeah, you know, Hillary Clinton probably, I mean, if the party was like that, she was such an overwhelming favorite, they probably would have asked him to step aside.
So, what will they do to you, if anything, for your persistence in wanting to make your ideas available to Democrats in Pennsylvania?
Say that again, please.
What will the hierarchy of the party do in retaliation against you because of your persistence in wanting to make your ideas available to the Democrats in Pennsylvania?
Well, it's interesting. What can they do? I mean, I'm not I only entered politics after 31 years in the military 3.5 years ago, so no one can reach out and touch me on the shoulder and say, Joe, remember that time we helped you run for Delaware County Supervisor? No, I was at sea defending the nation during that time. So to my mind is I tell everyone I am an independent representative of my district who believes in the democratic principles. Also, I believe that the Republican, not the Republican leadership, but the Republicans always have a sense of accountability in the past about them. And I'm going to put those two best together, investment in our people with the right accountability for it, because I ultimately work for the 700,000 constituents who I serve in my district. And at the end of the day, it's only their opinion that matters, no establishment. Remember, Pennsylvania was where that whiskey rebellion began.
Right. And should again.
We are.
And if you have enough whiskey, we'll all rebel against something. Congressman, what does it mean for Pennsylvania to have the G20 there?
It's a great step. My gosh, here we are in the what we call the City of Bridges. That was an industrial city and has reinvented itself with a diversified economy. Now, we are all of a sudden having great pride in one of our great cities in Pennsylvania, where we have been able to demonstrate, and I've been to Pittsburgh quite a few times these past 4 months to say, showcase us. Here's why we also need it. You know, these last 30 years under Arlen Specter, and I respect him for what he's tried to do, but Pennsylvania is now the third oldest nation. It's state in the nation. You know, our manufacturing has plummeted downward. And so I think this will begin to harbor the feeling that there's a new beginning. The next 30 years are going to be totally different and need new leaders than the past 30 years. And so I think this is a grand thing that points to a lot more than just the Tree 20. It says let's get some new set of titans in that we haven't had to take Pennsylvania where it needs to go.
Switching gears, is it appropriate for a high-ranking member of the military who expects that the president will not receive favorably his recommendation, or the recommendation of another, I'm not blaming General McChrystal personally on this, to leak the recommendation to the media so as to create a drumbeat for the president, bearing in mind, this is my view, that the movement of troops in wartime is about the highest category of classified secrets that we have.
We don't know who leaked it, but whoever did a disservice to how the military or those civilians who might have leaked it in the Pentagon, who knows, who oversee the military. This, I have, General McChrystal didn't do that. I know him a bit, but that is a disservice. Look, there are times to speak out and there are times not to speak out. But the way the military does it, you go in and see the captain in his sea cabin. If you don't agree with what he say, you walk out, keep your lips shut, or you walk out and hand in your resignation if it's that horrible. And whoever tried to beat up this drumbeat, I disagree with. Now, I happen to think, and I went through the classified report, even the parts that were redacted, and I happen to believe that this is a very important report because I believe that if we do depart there without eradicating that safe haven of al-Qaeda in Pakistan, because that's the real objective. It's not Afghanistan. Afghanistan is really more of a base from whence to operate and support the Pakistanis against al-Qaeda in Pakistan. Then who knows if 5 years from now we might not be the ones who are struck. We need an exit strategy. We need conditions set that if we don't meet these benchmarks, then we have to have an alternative containment strategy. But I think due just should be done, but not until the president has had his time quietly to talk with his team first, and they should never have leaked it.
They should never have leaked it, but how disturbed are you that people like Senator Biden, even though he was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, would feel as though he knows more than General McChrystal, handpicked by Barack Obama to come up with a way forward? Admiral Mullen, you watched him 2 weeks ago say that we have to act now, we have to act soon, this is the moment, and there's no time to waste. It seems like he's wasting a lot of time.
I don't think we have the time to waste. I think this report should be handled and should be handled with relative swiftness.
It was done August 30th, Admiral. It was done August 30th.
I agree with you. There is, whether it's the health care debate, whether it's the we need to move rapidly on. We were told in today's press that he is going to handle this as soon as he gets back, but we must. Time is a wasting to make a decision. That said, I respect that we have appointed civilians over our military, and I do wish that there had been more wider thought given to the impact of, for example, Iraq upon our overall national security by our civilian leadership, because the military is an input on how to resolve things militarily.
All right, well, in Admiral Sestak's opinion, who's right? General McChrystal, send me 40,000 troops, or Vice President Biden, use special ops on drones?
I believe that the right approach is you're going to need some more boots on the ground. And the reason is why let me give you an example. When I went on the ground early in the war in Afghanistan, I had a short mission, very short period of time, I headed the Navy's anti-terrorism unit. I met with General Hayden, head of the national, he was head of NSA then, eavesdropping. He said, General Franks, who's running this war, tells me, give me some actionable intelligence I can act on. I tell him, the general said, give me some action, and I'll give you some intelligence. In short, you just can't fly over. You have to have some boots or somebody on the ground to make them move so that all of a sudden you can pick up that they're communicating because inadvertently they've been forced to move. So you need a combination. Now, that said, we also need an exit strategy. And by that I don't mean a date certain. I mean benchmarks by whether we can measure success or failure, which we never had in Iraq till too late in the game. And I believe this because our goal has changed in Afghanistan. It's not about nation building. It is about eradicating, as I mentioned, al-Qaeda in Pakistan, but leaving behind some probability that it's stable enough you could even be some of the warlords that are against the al-Qaeda-ized Taliban, but some form of stability that there is a probability that the al-Qaeda will not come back and recreate a sanctuary for itself there. That needs not just a goal, it needs a strategy, but I do believe, having read the report, that it's going to take we have to, at least for a year to a year and a half, see if these additional troops cannot resurrect to a certain level the damage that was done over the last 8 years as we took our eye off the ball in Afghanistan because of Iraq.
I mean, of course, you could debate whether we actually did that or whether we ever did want to do more than we're doing right now. My feeling is, though, if Pakistan can't control their country and al-Qaeda can set up shop there and run their camps in a country that has an official government and has ministries, what hope do we ever have of keeping al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan?
Well, here's the issue you have to place before that sentence. If we do nothing, do you want to just depart and let al-Qaeda plan against us? So what's the strategy? Well, we know Pakistan is close to being a failed state. We also know Pakistan has 2,000 scientists involved in nuclear weaponry, more than that, nuclear material, with access not just to the weapons. I'm not as much worried about that as access to radioactive material and knowledge. So the key here is, how do we get the Pakistan leadership not to fail by turning them towards counterinsurgency efforts against the al-Qaeda and Taliban in their country?
Does Senator Specter understand this?
He mentioned the other day that he was going to ask a question of Secretary Gates of, is being in Afghanistan helpful to the issue of addressing al-Qaeda? My gosh, we've been there 8 years. If you haven't come to an assessment of that, then what are we doing? I mean, I strongly feel Afghanistan. I've written an op-ed 4 months ago on it. I wrote one a year ago. I'm submitting another one in the next 48 hours. My issue is, this is a front-line issue because this has to do with those who struck us. Now, you know my feeling on Iraq. It was a tragic misadventure because when I was on the ground, I saw special forces, civil affairs forces, psychological operation forces winning over the populace, having almost gotten rid of a lot of al-Qaeda. But then we moved those forces to Iraq. Now, because it spiraled downward so deeply, in the words of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff 2 years ago, pulling it back up is, one, going to take a limited number of additional troops, but we're not going to pull it back up to the level of where we thought at one time we might be able to turn it into a nation-building effort. So we've changed our goals, but the objective of not letting al-Qaeda have a safe haven, in my opinion, remains the same. And Pakistan is the issue. How do you turn that government away from India, it still thinks is its mortal enemy, and let us continue training its forces, which we're doing some of, towards a counterinsurgency effort? Because if we don't get them on that side of the border, they're just going to eventually wait till we depart and move over. This has got to be a very hard political, military approach.
Good luck again, Senator Specter, of becoming the next senator from Pennsylvania. And, of course, you have Pat Toomey, who's polling pretty strong, too. But you're on the way up, Congressman. Best of luck.
And you know, if you and Senator Specter want to come in the studio and debate each other here with Brian and me moderating.
You offered that one time. Please put out the offer. I'll come in a heartbeat.
You got it, Admiral. Thanks for joining us.